Marvin Harrison Jr.'s usage in week 1 against Buffalo is not something to worry about. This isn't Madden, okay? Relax. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner _. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on so you know when my big dumb face has something new to say. Lot to talk about today. Lingering questions surrounding this roster. Final segment for that. Pro Football Focus grades are out as they are. Some more bright spots than you would think on the defensive side of the ball. And the biggest story that I want to discuss today, after just seeing just regurgitation of pretty much one side of an argument, is that the Cardinals have failed Marvin Harrison Jr. and that if you buy a Maserati, why would you leave it in the garage? What are we doing here, guys? These are the facts. Okay? Marvin Harrison Jr. did not play one. He played 3 snaps in the preseason, but he played one passing down snap and didn't get a target, didn't have any sort of juice in the preseason. Okay? Worked out with Kyler Murray all offseason, and this was his first NFL game as one of the most highly touted wide receivers coming out of college that we've seen in the last handful of years. On the road, against a perennial AFC championship game team, in an offense where he's the third option, in an offense that's run first. Let me wind that back really quickly. Third option in a run-first offense in his first NFL game. Now, of course, he won't be the third option forever. But behind James Conner and Trey McBride, who have been NFL players for more than one kickoff to start a game, him getting a handful of targets, 1 reception, 4 yards. Lest we forget, he dropped his first target. Okay, that's not a knock on the kid. It's just to say this is his first NFL game. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. The Cardinals put up 28 points, 21 on offense without him. And I said this entire offseason, as a way to kind of massage people into what we're going to see, which is what we saw week 1, it's most likely going to be a slow start. It's most likely going to be James Conner and Trey McBride first. And he's going to eat at some point, in the first handful of weeks. This offense would be fine without Marvin Harrison Jr. The fact that they drafted him is going to take it to the next level, you'd think. This is the first time the starters have played like, oh my God, why would you draft Marvin Harrison Jr. number 4 overall if you're not going to throw him you don't have to. In week 1, the trust on an NFL field is not there yet between Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. Just due to happenstance that this was Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first game in the NFL. He trusts Greg Dortch, he trusts Trey McBride, and he trusts the run game. And while Drew Petzing's play calling may have been suspect at times, especially in the second half, when Kyler Murray wasn't taking many shots down the field, 2 of the 3 times that Kyler Murray did take a shot down the field, the wide receivers dropped the ball. So I'm seeing a lot of Kyler Murray missed Marvin Harrison Jr. And, they're not looking his way. Kyler Murray only does 1 read. They rely on the run too much. Relax. This isn't Madden, okay? It's not just, this is a good player, put him on, X, go route, hot route, red 7, hot route, touchdown. That's not how this works. This is real life. So I can't comprehend, while it's not the outing you wanted him to have during his first game as an NFL player, it's far and away, it couldn't be further away from a big deal. The constant overreaction to any time Kyler Murray steps out of bounds, proverbially, one way or another, or the way one little thing goes wrong on offense, It's like, oh, told you this wasn't going to work. Relax. Please. This is the first time the starters have played a game since week 18 of last season. And if you look around the NFL and you look at, I think Jared Goff led the NFL in passing with 217 yards last week. Relax. We've never seen more of a bona fide, true preseason game that counts than we did in week 1. Everybody looked bad. So when you look at Marvin Harrison Jr. and the wide open play on the broken play, Kyler Murray already had a broken pocket and he was already looking to the other side of the field. This wasn't like, and he would have gotten sacked if he didn't get rid of the ball. This isn't like, he looked down to Hike. Oh, Marvin Harrison Jr. is wide open. Nope. I'm going to look the other way. Too easy. We'd rather start with an L. Oh, I'm so small. I can't see over the line of scrimmage. All of these things are so ridiculous at this point. Kyler Murray had one of the best quarterback performances we saw in week 1. But we're at a point now where this is almost becoming like a political thing. It's like, oh, it's one side or the other. It can't be both. It can't be. Kyler Murray was not the reason the Cardinals lost. The defense was. Maybe some questionable play calling. But the whole Marvin Harrison Jr., you must feed him so many times right away, or this isn't. Why? This is not a video game. This is going to take time. I don't understand why it's, fail. Fire everybody. Everybody needs to chill. They went toe-to-toe against a perennial 10-12 winning team, 10-12 game winning team. After a season of winning only 4 games, having to rebuild the roster. And that was their first shot. If they would have lost by 30 and Marvin Harrison Jr. had 1 catch, yeah, we'd be having a different conversation right now. But the constant pushback of, if you buy a Maserati, why are you putting it in the garage? Relax. It takes more time than just the snap of a fingers. I'm assuming next week it'll be a lot better than what we saw in week 1. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. Pro Football Focus grades are out. Better than you think. Next. This episode of Locked on Cardinals is brought to you by Hims. Men, when we leave the house, it's phone, wallet, keys. How's my hair look? But if you're experiencing hair loss, you may not be so confident when you step outside your door. It's time to get the confidence back and restore your hair with Hims. Hims provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work, all from the comfort of your couch. Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted treatment options and clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. They offer personalized chewable, oral, spray, and serum. All of those are treatment options, so you can find what works best for you. And the process is simple and it's 100% online. Just answer a few questions and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to your door. Hims has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, and if you feel like you're losing a part of yourself with your hair loss, get Hims and get your confidence back. Start your free visit online today at hims.com/LockedOnNFL. That's HIMS.com/LockedOnNFL for your personalized hair loss treatment options. HIMS.com/LockedOnNFL. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider, if I can talk, who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. All right. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. Listen, it's a lot to take in, okay? The expectations, the excitement, the offensive heavy leaning talent-wise, going on the road, almost getting a win, potentially being a pass interference call at the end, while Marvin Harrison Jr. is wide open. All of these things. I understand it's emotional. And I also look at it and say, you know what? It's one game. It's Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first game. It's going to get better. He's going to get open. He's going to have a ton of catches and yards and touchdowns, and it's going to unlock this offense a little bit better than what we saw in week 1. Because with a vertical passing attack, which was null, but like if you look at, I think Kyler was 0 for 6 on passes 10 yards down the field. One was a drop to Marvin Harrison Jr. One was a massive drop by Michael Wilson. One was a tip ball. Like it's not all just, stats bad, stats good. Got to watch a game. With that, let's go to some stats. The Pro Football Focus grades are out. This is always just a fun kind of litmus test. Just to kind of see what the numbers showed after 1 week by people who are a lot smarter than I am. So the highest rated Cardinals in week 1, Mac Wilson, 87.9. I discussed him yesterday, had a couple breakthrough tackles for losses. 1 tackle for loss, was great in space, was a ball hawk. The dude's going to be great. If he and Kazir White are going to be good in the middle of the field, this defense may be better than people think. Zaven Collins, 85.8. He had a sack taken away from him. He played good football. He's a top 10 game he's played in the NFL. No pass rush, aside from that one sack that ended up being, roughing the passer. So he would have had a sack, which would have upped his numbers probably even more. Paris Johnson Jr., first game at left tackle, 83.9. Paris Johnson Jr. played well. Got beat by Gregory Rousseau once. He's not the first left tackle to have that happen. So if you're going to have an 83.9 graded Pro Football Focus left tackle for the entirety of the season and for the next, hopefully, 10 years, the Cardinals are going to be in good shape. Will Hernandez, 78.9, old reliable at the right guard position. Played very well. This is what it is. This is what it is. The interior of the offensive line played well on Sunday. The tackles were who struggled, but all in all, the offensive line played pretty well. Gregory Rousseau was just an absolute monster. I think Kyler Murray was 75. I think the sack fumble, jettisoned those numbers. Only threw for 161 yards. Had another handful on the ground, 50-plus yards on the ground. This is what this offense is going to look like until they start to get their flow. And I think when they come home next week, play against the Rams, it's going to be some home cooking that the Cardinals need right now. And this is in no way or form a locomotive without brakes running down a hill. It's just difficult to see the forest through the trees right now because we're finally here. It's finally the NFL. No more excuses, no more reasons, no more last regime, no more any of that. And the Cardinals were close to getting a win on the road that ended with a questionable call, a questionable third down run call outside zone by the Cardinals, followed up by a questionable no call on pass interference. The Cardinals are never getting in that spot. Never, never, never. But soaking in, watching the tape back, there were some positives on defense. Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker played well. Budda Baker's name precedes him. You could see Josh Allen shying away from Budda Baker when going through his progressions, as he should. Jalen Thompson had a couple great open field tackles. He's a mauler. Kazir White and Mac Wilson played well in the middle of the field, and the pass rush was just non-existent. I think the biggest issue that I saw on defense was, and this is not, first of all, this is not a 2024 or 2023 only thing. It's been a while. For some reason, big third downs, the Cardinals haven't been able to get off the field for a couple of years now. It just feels like that. It feels like it. So whenever it was 3rd and 12, it's like, oh, well, how is Buffalo going to convert this one? Oh, short pass, 4th and 4, Josh Allen run for first down. Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. The defense is going to be the problem for the entirety of the season. This isn't new. But when you look at one of the question marks kind of the door starting to open to kind of see what Mac Wilson is capable of in his 6th season, he's going to be an everyday starter. Sure, he's probably not going to produce like this every week. but he's an everyday starter. Him and Kazir White, they're running mates in the middle of the field. You need boxes checked on defense, and throughout the season, you'll start to see who you can trust and who you can't. Sean Murphy-Bunting had 2 bad pass interference calls. Max Melton, who is in concussion protocol now, looked a little outmatched in his first NFL game. Tried to wrap up Khalil Shakir he just tried to bump him in his chest. He's like, nope, this isn't college anymore, baby. You can't just overpower people from the top. You got to wrap up. Zaven Collins looked fine through 1 week, but the pass rush is still, the question. So with that, there are myriad lingering questions for the Cardinals still going into week 2. I'll start to do my preview. We have crossover Thursday with Locked On Rams. I'll do my full preview on Friday. But still lingering questions after week 1 that need to get answered sooner rather than later, and answered not necessarily in just this needs to get fixed or this needs to get worked out. It's, will this happen or not? And what do I mean by that? Well, guess what? I'll tell you next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. So FanDuel is kicking major keister right now. You've heard us talk a lot about them. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Remember, we all have something a little different now for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. I got it. I watched it, and it is incredible. You got the Cardinals here. You got Red Zone here on mute, obviously, watching the Cardinals game. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. All right. So, a lot of questions still. Lingering questions. Let's start on offense. This is a little bit easier. While the Cardinals have a bunch of weapons, and this isn't a situation where there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and this isn't a situation where if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 0, or things like that. There is going to need to be some kind of tightening up, especially in the pass game, where it's like, okay, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson. The target share should be set up as such where Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. get 70% of the targets, 65% of the targets. I feel like Kyler Murray on Sunday relied on Greg Dortch too much because it's comfortable. And he didn't have, 10 catches for 70 yards. Greg Dortch wasn't a world beater by any stretch. But his safety blanket seems to be Greg Dortch. And it's seemed to have been Greg Dortch whenever Greg Dortch gets time. Whenever he gets PT. It's this odd little thing where it's like he trusts Greg Dortch. And I think some of it has to do because they're shorter routes, closer to the line of scrimmage. This needs to get tightened up in the sense that there needs to be some sort of intermediate and down the field pass game. So the lingering questions is, am I right that it was game 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. getting his sea legs, playing against Buffalo on the road, morning slate, whatever it is? Or does Drew Petzing need to kind of crack the egg here a little bit and get away from just running the ball and really taking some shots down the field, which Kyler Murray is one of the most efficient at in the game? And now having a bunch of 6'3" wide receivers. That's a question. And I don't know. You hope like the one oh no that you don't want is we're looking at week 8 and they don't know how to use Marvin Harrison Jr. That's the oh no. And that's, first of all, a long way away. And second of all, that's not going to happen. And if it does, we have much bigger question marks. Let's say it this way. I will promise you this. Ooh. Somebody's going to have to remind me. But I will promise you this. If the Cardinals haven't figured out how to use Marvin Harrison Jr. by week 10, let's say by the bye week, okay, which is week 11. If the Cardinals haven't done introspection enough and figure out how to use Marvin Harrison Jr. by the bye week in week 11, I will do a full podcast on why the Cardinals should probably trade Kyler Murray. Fair enough? Is that fair? It's not going to happen. But they do just kind of need to work it out in practice today. I can guarantee you he's going to have 10-plus targets next week. Obviously not forcing it in triple coverage, things like that, but he's going to have some targets next week. Lingering question number 2. And this is the lingeriest of lingeriest. What do they do with the pass rush? I have said all of the times, every day as you know this, if this is your first listen to Locked On Cardinals, thank you. I've said all of the times available, all of them, that one pass rusher ain't going to get it done. So I think that's why. And on top of that, B.J. Ojulari's out for the year and Darius Robinson's on IR. Okay? So if B.J. Ojulari was here and Darius Robinson was here, we would actually get to see what this pass rush is. Obviously, depending on where they'd line up Darius Robinson. I'm assuming they'd line him up on the outside a little bit more than on the inside to be able to get some sort of pressure from the tackle position. One pass rusher ain't going to get it done. Son Reddick, still sitting out. Yannick Ngakoue still doesn't have a team. You want to bring them both in? Giddy up. That would elevate this team. But trading for a Son Reddick by himself and then paying him a bunch of money doesn't help anybody. That's an old Arizona Cardinals thing. So the lingering question is Monty Osborne going to do anything? Because I'll tell you what, these questions are only going to get louder and bigger and more grandiose when they play the Rams, and then the Lions, and then Washington. I'll tell you what, Jane Daniels is going to run all the hell over this team. And it's only going to get worse from there. What are they going to do about the pass rush? That is the biggest question mark. And when I teased it going into the segment, it's like it's one or the other. If Monty Osborne comes in and, I don't know, has an impromptu press conference, let's just say in a vacuum here to make this easier, says, we are not adding any pieces to the defense at this point. That's the answer. That's no longer a question mark. That is the pass rush the Cardinals are going to be dealing with. They had I don't think so. Kyle Ogard tweeted this out. They had the lowest graded pass rush by a long shot in the NFL in week 1. Now, they had 4 missed sack tackles. And yes, the difference between a below average pass rusher and a very good pass rusher is being able to wrap up a quarterback regardless of how big and strong he is. So if the Cardinals get 3 of those 4 sacks, we're having a different conversation. And the Cardinals probably would have won the game. But they didn't, so we're not. So the one question, the biggest question surrounding this team, it's not Marvin Harrison Jr. It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. But when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, or say it's Lamar Jackson is probably better, would have lit the Cardinals up more than Josh Allen with that pass rush that we would have seen. Lamar Jackson is probably the best at the game in doing this. It's not always going to be elusive quarterbacks. It's going to be Matthew Stafford's and Jared Goff's. But the Cardinals need to figure out if this is it or if they're going to add pieces. Because if they're going to add pieces, there's zero reason to wait. Zero reason to wait. This isn't like, let's see what happens until week 5. The Cardinals are 1-4 now, statistically the worst pass rush in the history of football. Let's add some pieces now. That's why I'm doing lingering questions going into week 2, that early in the week going into week 2, because listen, if you're going to do it now. If you're not, say that and move on. And I just don't know. It's a tough thing to watch the game on Sunday and see pretty much, that friend, I never used to be this guy. That friend who you play basketball with, I need to warm up for 10 or 15 minutes before I was just ready. I'm like, all right, let's go. Just build a little sweat. Be like, all right, ready to rock. Game on. just comes in wearing jeans and like Chucks and comes in and just drops 30 on somebody. That's what the Cardinals offense kind of looked like on Sunday. We didn't I know that it wasn't perfect. I know they missed Marv. I know he only had four receiving yards. I know it wasn't perfect, but the offense looked pretty good for the majority of the game. They were moving the ball. Second half was tough. Kyler Murray only threw the ball 3 times. Like, it was tough, but it was more of an eat the clock, get close, and go win a game down 1 score with the ball. And they had that situation at hand. There was only so much you could do with a defense that's so undermanned, and that's what the Cardinals opted to do, and they almost pulled it off. Almost as loose. They had the opportunity to pull it off. So when you're Monty Austin for it, it's like, okay, that offense does that. Imagine if the offense was able to let loose a little bit more because they actually had a pass rush. And maybe Monty Osford is on the phone right now saying, you know what? Got to make a move. Got to do it now. Because this is not a season you can just waste. When I've said the entirety of the offseason, they're probably going to be that fringe playoff team in 2025 when they can spend all the money they have on defense, when they've got another litany of picks, and the offense is in place. But if they want to keep from being potentially the worst pass rush we've ever seen, Monty Osborne needs to get on the phone and bring in 2 guys. Not 1, 2. Make the juice worth the squeeze. If you're going to spend the money on not just one player. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Still a lot of question marks, man. I think we'll find out a lot more come Sunday against the Rams. And I'm along for the ride, baby. Hope you are too. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.